This video is sponsored by you. Links to support the channel are in the description, along with the Discord, which you should join. I know what you're thinking, and yeah, despite how difficult it is to even imagine, sometimes I have been wrong. Even Jesus wasn't faultless. This video is mostly here for my own peace of mind. Looking back at my catalog, there is a lot I am not quite satisfied with, so in this video I will be rectifying the mistakes I made in the past 2.5 years of making content. As you'd very much expect, there is a lot. Now, what is a mistake? Watching my content, you may have realized I am not Dragon GJY. This means that the videos are almost fully opinion pieces. Unless an opinion contains a factually wrong fact, or it is omitting a fact, it cannot be wrong. So you are absolutely free to argue Magallan isn't worthless, and that I am incorrect for constantly pointing out that she doesn't do anything for the average player. Not only would you be wrong, but it wouldn't be a mistake to correct to begin with. Finally, this is only the mistakes I remember off the top of my head, and those that are relevant enough to mention. I am certain there is many more. So hello there, Arknights' most hated YouTuber here, once again being the #1 chain medic hater, I guess. So let's begin with the Ascalon video. This video is my personal 9/11. The conclusion I reached there is technically still correct for that time. That conclusion being, it didn't matter how good or bad Ascalon was, because the next banner was Wis'Adel and Logos, meaning you shouldn't have rolled anyway. However, the video massively undersells Ascalon as a slight Mizuki power creep, who is better than him, but not so much better to be worth rolling. This is because at the time I was only looking at Mizuki versus Ascalon in terms of skill 1 with a blocker behind them. And, as you can see here, Mizuki does achieve the same thing as Ascalon in those circumstances. He does it much worse, and he has a much harder time at it, but the end result is the same between the two. That's where I was coming from, that place being Stupid Town. Since this is personally how I use Block 0 operators, in my immense wisdom, I failed to account for everything else Ascalon does. Mizuki needs a blocker behind him, and he's essentially only usable with skill 1 as a sub-DPS of sorts, or as breeding stock. Ascalon can do that and much more. For starters, all 3 of her skills are good and serve different purposes, with skills 2 and 1 being her best ones. Since Ascalon crowd controls as well, it means very often, and especially with skill 2, she doesn't need a blocker behind her. This increases her versatility tenfold, as a unit able to do great stalling and great damage at the same time, completely independently. So, would I recommend to roll for Ascalon? Yeah, probably. Now that she doesn't have Wis'Adel looming over her head like the Antichrist, it's not a bad idea to spend your blood, sweat, cum and orandum on her. In the top 10 video, I actually undersell Vigil skill 1 a little. His stall works if the enemy can't kill the wolf on an average of 13 seconds, not 21. What happened is that, like some sort of dementia patient, I forgot that Vigil has passive wolf regeneration on top of skill 1 making more wolves. Essentially, skill 1 doubles his wolf regeneration. In the top 10 video, I forgot about Crownslayer's module. On skill 2, the hit rate reduction is actually 62.5% on module 3, not 50%. Fortunately, it literally doesn't change anything for this poor woman. She's still trash. In the top 10 video, I accidentally show Carnelian with module X, despite the footage being with module Y. In the top 10 video, despite the amount of people saying that Carnelian in first place is stupid, I have only seen a singular person actually give me an argument as to why she shouldn't be. That being that, at the very least, Carnelian can kill things, whereas Crownslayer cannot, not really. Under these lenses, it is fair to say Carnelian is better than Crownslayer. Though ultimately this is a trash versus garbage kinda deal, I'm just admitting that yeah, there is an argument where Crownslayer is worse. In the top 10 video, I don't mention Ebenholz's Delta module. This is because it didn't matter to the conclusion. Including it would not have changed my assessment on him. His thing is one-shotting, and very often, even with the Delta module, he can't. Still, I should have mentioned it. Another thing that I should have mentioned but didn't is skill 2. It's a bad skill, mainly due to how inconsistent it is, just shoving enemies all around the place like you're playing billiards. And also due to how slow it is for a skill like this. Ultimately, the conclusion in the video doesn't change, but I should have definitely mentioned these two things. As it is, it appears incomplete. In the top 10 best operators video, Shu goes unmentioned. I should have mentioned Shu. Either as 10th place instead of Ling, or as 9th place above Majok and Penance, or in the honorable mention. The Death of Archetypes video had an entire segment at the end talking about modules. The entire argument hinged on the fact Wis'Adel is a Flinger instead of a Deadeye because Flingers don't have modules. The implication was that they pushed her in a class without a module to make sure she wouldn't be too strong on release. This is wrong. First, because Hyperglyph clearly does not give a fuck about that. And second, because Flinger modules came out during Lone Trail, an entire year before Wis'Adel. This mistake happened because at the time I was unfamiliar with the Terra Wiki, and literally did not see the Flinger modules. I have already corrected the Ines review, however I still want to point it out, mainly because some people still make fun of it, like haha, you admitted your mistake and corrected it, what a loser! It's really strange. In the Executor Alter review, I forgot that Yostar actually changed the end schedule so that he released with his module, which did not happen in Siena. In the Pepe review, I say that Eyjafjalla was not sparkable. That was not the case. This happened because I thought sparks were dependent on the amount of banners since the sparkable unit, while in reality it's just a simple time thing. Units become sparkable 1 year after their banners, independently of the amount of banners in between. I may be a little stupid. In the Siege video, for some god-forsaken reason, I say that Eyjafjalla fell out of the meta. I genuinely don't remember why I said that. One possible answer is that this was the transitional period for Eya. No, not like Monster, I mean the period where skill 3 was falling off hard, and the wider community was still figuring out skill 2 is her best skill. So it left Eya in a weird limbo for a while. Either that, or it's engagement bait, which I will admit I do sometimes. If it is bait, I am so fucking good at it that I managed to engagement bait myself through time. In the Ulpianus review, I call every 6 star between him and laptop mid. That is an exaggeration for the video that I feel didn't come across very well. Nymph is great. Marcille is above average with skill 2, which goes against this text in the video. In multiple videos, I have said Wis'Adel has the AoE range of the Chapter 10 canon. In reality, it is slightly larger. Even in my glazing, I can't get across just how good she actually is. I often say Specter Alter requires outrageous investment to be good. This is only half true. I say this because both modules are viable in different situations, so in theory you should build both to get the most out of her. However, it is fine to build just one. Module X for solo, and Module Y for the Abyssal Hunter squad. I will still say this because it's part of my anti-Abyssal Hunter agenda, but know that I know it's not fully the case. The video on Collab Operators fails to address Luo Xiaohei and 9 colored deer. There is a little text about them, but it's not really enough, is it? Thank God nobody gives a shit about them, I guess. The Shu and Zuo review is a disaster. Somehow I forgot the sponsors at the start, leaving this ominous blank screen. The text for Zuo's skill 2 is literally unfinished like Monster Hunter Wilds, and I think I got the numbers wrong. Fortunately, the conclusion doesn't change, but still, this is probably the most embarrassing one, just for that sponsor thing. This video on gacha games in general is probably my most poorly argued of all time, if you can believe that. I have a small segment in this Sessit video that explains my point so much better than this entire video does. Alright, here's your patented super hot take. Nobody. This game should not have balance patches. Modules already fucked up enough. Buffing operators sets a terrible precedent. In a gacha game, every character you obtain is an investment of premium currency. Therefore, you must know precisely what you're getting into. Introducing balance patches into the game messes all of this up. Now you can't possibly know if an operator Executor is a good investment or not, since balance patches might change them later. The video has an untold assumption that the viewer knows that corporations will not benefit the player in the long run, and thusly even buffs to old units can be dangerous and set a bad precedent, even if on paper they are all good. This led to the video literally missing a core premise, which made it just not work fundamentally. Also, yeah, HSR literally started buffing older units, though we don't know the extent of it, and after the Castor's passive, I am never touching that game again. The video on alters is a mess and pure unfiltered ass. I still agree with the main points I made in it, those being that most alters just don't have enough setup and don't change enough about the character to justify an alter instead of a skin, meaning they mostly felt like greedy cash grabs. Some alters just make shit up in the events they appear in to justify themselves. Some are just the same character, but she's wearing a suit now. However, this very simple point is conveyed horribly. To the point I feel like my 12-year-old brother in between Fortnite rounds would probably do a better job arguing it. The Typhon reviewer fails to properly account for Typhon's unique advantages, mainly found in her range. It also fails to properly account for skill 2. In the Kernel Banner video, I say that after 150 pulls, the next roll will be a rate up 6-star if you haven't gotten any. What I meant to say is that the next 6-star roll is guaranteed to be a rate up if you haven't gotten any. While I still agree with the general points made in the Arknights Writing video, the criticism is too vague, and I fail to provide actual examples. For today's standards, this video wouldn't be published. If you weren't already familiar with what I was discussing, I was essentially just saying shit. In the Arknights Writing video, I talk about a giant black hole that's about to swallow Terra. I make a huge deal out of it, but in reality that seems to have went nowhere, and probably was never meant to be taken as important by the writers. In the Qiubai review, I mention bind immune enemies as an actual realistic downside to her. Believe me, she has many pitfalls, but that's not one of them. There is only like 2.5 bind immune enemies in the entire game, which is one of the many reasons that f***ing Lizard I hate is so good. In the Bad Modules video, there was some miscommunication with Dragon GJY, and I ended up talking about the wrong Archetype module. Fortunately, they both suck ass, so it was fine. In the top 5 worst 6 stars video, I mention Holheyak skill 3 is too slow to take advantage of her talent since she can't hit enemies while they levitate. However, this is untrue, and Chris bent me over and spanked my Italian chicks over it. Debuffs like levitate are applied before damage, so she does make use of it. In the true highest damage video, which I should definitely remake for IS5, some calculations are wrong. As it turns out, I f***ed up the chocolate pasta relic calculations, because of course I did, meaning the Scadi alter calculations also got messed up. In the Nightingale video, there was a segment about Texas Alter before her release, where I say she isn't that broken and not that meta-defining. I don't think I need to explain why this is outrageously wrong. The Chen Gamer 420 controversy video isn't exactly wrong. The things stated are still correct, however, the ending conclusion segment is now hilariously out of date and aged like milk. In my very first analysis video about 5 stars, one core point is that Myrtle made it so Hypergriff stopped using 4 stars to test out new archetypes. This is because Myrtle is so strong, in part because she is a 4-star. While it is true that a lot of new archetypes are tested with 5 stars, there is still archetypes being launched with 4 stars, like loop shooters and whatever the fuck contrail is. Even back then, when the video released, there wasn't quite enough of a disparity to make that argument in good faith. There were people like Jaye, for example, which debuted the Merchant archetype. You know, I should really remake this video properly. Anyway, that's all. The SUPAH Century of Humiliation video is finally over. Max out your gummy. Bye. Man, this was an humbling experience, huh? Thank you for watching, and thank you to the members and Patreons on screen now. In particular to Boreas, Mr. Lair, Zilot, That Animal Raptor, Good Old Leon, Seishin, Joseph D, Matthew Nemo, Zephyrinix, Nuppo, Lortachio, Mnemonic, Nerdrage, Andre Mula, Mike Reguera, Maxi Ossess, The King of Harems, Kevin McGuire, Jigster, and Chromeshan but JJF. Now, I will go to the near mental hospital to pick out my new wife or husband. Bye bye.